Good morning, Dai, and welcome back to the Low Carb Paleo Show.
Good morning, Alan and Mark. So great to see you guys again. It's been a long time.
Our pleasure, our pleasure. Good morning, Mr. Mark. Monsieur Mark.
Good
Comment ça va?
morning.
Comment ça va?
I take it, yeah. Oh, yes, I'm plein form. Merci.
Oui,
He says with his best British, English, French accent.
we have to show off our French, right?
We do.
Un petit peu. C'est
yeah.
merveilleux, oui.
Oui. Okay. So, Dai, thank you again for coming back on our show to talk about your COVID-19 experience. Could you give us a quick reminder about you and your background, please?
Sure. I'll give you the abbreviated version. I'm 43 years young and a proud father of two teenage girls. They're now 15 and 17, Chardonnay and Brie. Yes, wine and cheese. And I've been dating my wife now for 20 years, which is remarkable when I think about it. It's like, wow, that's a long time. But I've been in the sort of coaching wellness space for going on 25 years now. Pretty much since I was 18, I started coaching and mentoring people and really how to create powerful transformations, not only through fitness, nutrition, mindset, but really just about life and lifestyle. And so lots of different capacities of doing that, but just through the iterations over the last 25 years, I like to think I keep improving like a fine wine, and I'm getting more effective and efficient and helpful in how I support people in my communities, both online and offline. So right. That's sort of the abbreviated version.
So you like the French culture so much, you have to call your daughters by by wine and cheese, yeah.
Exactly.
I'm French, and I wouldn't dare call my son Brie, but maybe Camembert.
Yeah. Well, we used to have a thing. We shared a lot of bottles of Chardonnay, obviously, before we had Chardonnay, my eldest, and we needed something that went along with wine, that name. So Brie Lynn, and then we just shortened it to Brie. So it works. Good. People remember it.
Yeah. All right. So tell us, what has been your experience so far with the COVID-19 situation?
Well, being perfectly honest and transparent, it's been challenging. There's been some ups as well, but there's also been quite a few downs. And I transitioned back. I've been living in Bali the last 2.5 years with my family, and they transitioned back last July, and then I followed suit in January because I had some commitments to tie up. And so I relocated back to Vancouver, Canada, but it wasn't COVID related. It was just life related. It was time to move back to Vancouver for our kids to finish up their high school here, because it was just a lot cleaner and easier for them. And we had made that deal with them when we started traveling 5 years ago, that at any time, if they wanted to go back to Vancouver to finish school, we would honor it. And so they pulled the trigger on that. So away we went. But then, as I had transitioned back to Vancouver, it was literally about 4 weeks later, about mid-February, COVID, the whole world sort of blew up. And my business, which I was coaching and mentoring, because I do a lot of business work as well, helping entrepreneurs with developing their online platforms and scaling. And a lot of them were in events businesses. And as you can imagine, when travel restrictions came in and events were being canceled because of group sizes, their businesses were greatly affected. And of course, their ability to continue working with me was also compromised. So I saw my business literally cut by about 75%, which was rather startling. And so compounding that, also I'm autoimmune compromised. So we were on sort of high alert because, we just don't really understand this virus yet. And so I found myself going into isolation and self-quarantining really early, even before they were recommending that was the course of action for everybody, especially in Canada. And I'm a very social guy. I'm an ambivert, so I'm naturally introverted, so I need a lot of downtime to recharge, but I love being extroverted. So my business is very extra, I do a lot of events and work with a lot of communities, and I love that social aspect. So all of a sudden that going from, these in-person events that I would help facilitate or participate in, they literally disappeared overnight. And some of them have transitioned online, but it's just not the same thing. And so that's, it's just been an adjustment, a bit of a pivot, mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, to try to adapt to this new situation we're all finding ourselves in. And really the last 4 weeks, it started to be on an upswing, as I think things have started to lax in Canada, especially Vancouver. We've done a really good job at flattening that curve, as they say, and so they've started to relax things. So we're starting to see some smaller groups come together. The gyms have just started to reopen. A lot of retail and services have started to reopen. Again, heavily restricted based on processes, but at least they're starting to open up again. So, that's it in a nutshell. Sort of where I'm at right now. I'm on an upside right now.
So are you guys still in confinement, or is it relaxed now more?
It's relaxed, but like my wife, her company, they're still working remotely, and they have plans to continue that way at least till the fall, which is fine. A lot of companies are still doing that. Myself, I did a lot of stuff online already, and so that sort of continued onward. The kids aren't going to be back in school till the fall. They started letting some students in, but it was very different how they were sort of phasing that in, and for our kids it just made sense for them to continue at home, and it's been okay, starting to see these laxing of some of the restrictions, which just gives everybody that little bit of boost of confidence and hope that there's light there at the end of that tunnel, and we're going to start to see life resume again. But there's still a lot of questions, and I don't feel all the answers are there yet. And to be honest, I don't think the government knows either. They're like, day to day, week to week, figuring things out based on the data,
Some people, I guess, I don't know if it's on purpose or they're trying to keep us on our toes by telling us it's going to come back in the fall. So what's your take on that? What do you feel?
It's easy to go down the sort of that conspiracy theory track. I know everyone, I've got a couple of people that I'm connected with online and seeing some of their posts and the conversations they're participating in. I'm like, okay, well, maybe I'm naive. I don't know, but I like to think that the government's not trying to manipulate things, and there's not a bigger agenda we're not aware of. So I'm optimistic that we're going to see ourselves get right back into flow. At least it's going to be different, I think, until they have a vaccine, obviously. But I like to think come the fall, my kids will be back in school. Maybe the way that they participate in school will probably change, obviously. And there's probably still going to be some sort of social distancing or restrictions, and that's fine. I understand that. But I'm optimistic that come the fall, we'll start to see more normalcy. And but do I really know for sure? Well, of course not. I'm just going off sort of the trend right now, and we've seen things start to lax, and I hope that trend continues. But yeah, you guys are absolutely right. Like come the fall, and if we lax things too quickly and we start bringing groups together, there was an event on the weekend, and they did find 15 cases because of this group that didn't adhere to keeping the size smaller and weren't strong on the social distancing. So they had this cluster just this past weekend here in British Columbia, and like 15 new cases, which is crazy because we were only doing 1 or 2 a day for the weeks leading up to that. So it's just reassured people that we can't relax too quickly and start letting people congregate in larger groups yet, because there's still the concern that things can spread. So it's a weird place to be, and I don't know. What are your guys' thoughts on this?
Well, you don't want to know. We are definitely on the conspiracy side of things. I've noticed that in America we're up to 2 million cases almost. And I don't see Canada in here in my list. You probably. Oh yes. Wow, that's very low. 98,000 cases. That's very low. You've been very lucky. Yeah?
And just to be fair, our 2 most populated provinces are Quebec and Ontario. So Toronto, Montreal, Ottawa, some of those cities probably ring a bell. And there's been criticism that they haven't been doing enough testing or ramping up testing to enough volume. So those numbers may be, and I would probably presume, a little bit lower than what they actually are, just based on the limitation of not getting enough testing out there. But, obviously the article I saw yesterday, was really hammering home that the CDC in the States and some of the incorrect numbers being reported, and so that always it definitely affects our confidence in whatever's being reported, and so I think it just yeah, we got to question things, you know. But I'd
Yeah,
rather
yeah.
play it safe than be a little bit too liberal and relaxed, and especially because of my health condition. So I'm a little bit selfish
Absolutely.
on
Yeah.
that side of things, but
No,
it's not
no.
something I want to contract, you know.
You got to take care of yourself and protect yourself. I, on that subject, I feel that pretty much all governments have been slacking off when it came to reacting. So there's a fine line, obviously, between reacting and overreacting. So
Right.
they dragged their feet for a few weeks, and then all of a sudden it was panic, which of course freaked out everybody instead of being more progressively, approaching the issue and having the proper equipment in place and all that protection for the medical workers and so on. So on the health side of thing, how have you supported and improved your immune system to protect yourself?
Well, I've been doing my darndest. I'm immunocompromised. I have an autoimmune disease, autoimmune neutropenia. So my bones, they produce my bone marrow is very healthy. I've been told from a hematologist, it produces plenty of good stuff, like a lot of healthy platelets and neutrophils, but my body kills off my neutrophils quicker than I can produce them. So it leaves me with a very, very low number, which just means, if I get a scrape or a cut, even if I'm exposed to a certain virus, I have very little defense. And to the point that, what happened most recently, I was hospitalized for 3 days. And during those 3 days, I had to have an abscess drained based on an infection that had ensued from basically I had a hemorrhoid. I had a little hemorrhoid, which for most people is not a big deal. And but unfortunately, because I had no immune system and there was an abscess that formed not in my rectum, but pretty close to that area, and I needed to go and have it drained. And I had to go on some pretty heavy antibiotics, which, there's a whole nother conversation there about antibiotics, and I try to abstain from any sort of pharmaceuticals as best I can, but in my situation, I needed them, and it got pretty severe. But to answer your question, what have I been doing? I live a lifestyle that supports healthy immune systems. I really focus on the nutrition and how I fuel myself, and really pay attention to whole foods as best I can, really limited to no preservatives as best I can, shopping local, organic as best I can. And I also have a very active lifestyle. So I try to move my body, exercise a regular component of it, practice meditation, get good sleep, drink lots of water. Like, there's certain habits that I have been instilled with for really most of my life. But when I learned of my autoimmune issue, I became a little bit more aware of some of my choices. So for the most part, I've been really good at doing it, but every once in a while there's a flare up due to a complication, like just unfortunately it goes that direction.
Have you added any particular vitamins or any additional products to protect yourself besides your regular regimen?
Yeah, I've been using CBD, and again, there's not enough, I think, research to really, and to be honest, I haven't noticed a massive shift. So it's hard for me to speak to. I don't think I've been using it long enough to. I've noticed that my inflammation in my body's reduced just based on how my body feels. So I'm presuming that, with inflammation coming down, it's going to help my immune system. Again, these are all things I'm going off what I'm personally feeling and experiencing, but without the one saving grace is I do get to test every week. I have a standing order, so I have to go get my blood work done every week. And so I can sort of track some of these like my white platelet counts, my red platelet counts, my neutrophils. And so I know that certain things are maintained, if not boosted slightly, just based on lifestyle. But there's so many different things that I have going on. For me to isolate any one thing and say this is what's creating the greatest response for me, the positive response, it'd be really hard to speak to that, and because I don't want to misinform people. But I have lots of turmeric. We eat that naturally. I take some turmeric supplements, and there's a couple other things I take, especially fish oils, to try to keep. Again, it's inflammation control is really what I'm most focused on. If I can keep inflammation down, I feel good. I feel my head feels clear. And I also recognize that some of the other symptoms that are normally associated with my autoimmune issue don't come around,
Now I know you're very big on exercise. So how do you exercise? Have you changed your routine? Are you doing most of your exercise at home, or do you go out and run and do things like that?
Yeah, well, I did adapt, and like many people, where I would have a nice balance of going to the gym to do more my strength training with weights. That wasn't an option, so I started doing more calisthenics type resistance training at home, yoga at home. I'm very fortunate. We live on the 33rd floor in a condo building, and I use the stairwell. So I'd wear my 25-pound vest, and I'd be doing flights up and down, usually for an hour. And so I rack up a lot of cardio and a little bit of strength there as well. And that became my main go-to for cardio, so I wouldn't have to go outside. And nice thing was I'm the only one in the stairwell. There's nobody else ever using it. So it's been a nice little playground for me. But so that's sort of been my structure around the fitness side of things. But it's a nice balance. I'm trying to keep mobility going because I do, like many of us, find ourselves sitting behind a computer a lot more right now. Also, we live in a small condo, so not having the opportunity to go outside as much, especially during the first few months, you go a little stir crazy, right? So it was important for me to have things to just keep my body moving, to keep me mentally happy, to be quite honest.
Right. Speaking of which, how do you handle and deal with, stress, emotional challenges, and such as, this particular situation?
Well, same as what I've always done to sort of manage stress and some anxiety or angst that comes with some of the situations we've been finding ourselves in. A little bit of breath work here and there, especially during yoga practice, and doing a daily yoga practice I found has been really useful and helpful for me emotionally and psychologically, but also specifically physically, just having that nice range of motion, reduced aches and pains, and just having that sort of real present in the moment kind of experience when you do yoga. Like, you really feel into your body, you feel into the breath. I do a program called Manflow Yoga, which is it's a guy that's a yogi instructor out of Austin, Texas, and he's got this great platform, and he has all these different programs. So it's like a little Netflix model membership site. So I get these videos. So I'm not doing them on my own. I've got someone I can follow along with, and I love that because you know what? All day long I'm working with clients. So I'm always helping people figure out what to do. And when it comes to some things like my own fitness, I know I can do what I want to do, but sometimes I like to just follow a program. I like to be told, oh, here's what you're going to do today. Because I really like that. Sometimes I just don't have to think about it. I just go and I do. and I feel good for it. So yoga has been the one consistent thing that's really helped a lot.
Good. So meditation, maybe? How's your sleep as well?
Yeah, sleep's pretty solid. It's interesting. I'm a pretty heavy sleeper. I can get to sleep pretty quick. My go zone seems to be that 6 to 7 hour window, so as long as I'm getting 6 to 7 hours, I feel great. I'm highly functional. My day winds down and I'm usually in bed, between 9 and 10 almost every night, and then up usually between 4:30 to 5:30. That's just sort of that window, and that's how I operate best. I've been doing that for a long time, an early riser, because I really like my mornings, and that's when I'm most productive. So I try to, as long as I get my sleep and I get the hard stuff done first thing, things flow really well. But that's me, and I know everyone has to sort of figure out what works for them, and it's a little bit of an experimentation to figure that out. But once you figure it out, it's as long as you're committed to that and you recognize the value of maintaining that kind of I'm not saying be so rigid or prescriptive that you don't give yourself opportunity to just live life, sort of in that sort of flow state. But for me, it works to have that structure. you know, especially with family and
Yeah.
and just the way life is right now specifically.
Mhm.
I find it's really useful having some structure to follow, some routine, especially because again, that's also reduces my stress a little bit, makes me feel a little bit less anxious, knowing what I'm doing, what I'm working on. Oh, this is when I have my workout block planned for today. So I have things to look forward to, but I just have a little bit of order within what feels very chaotic in the world today. And
Right.
so that's worked for me, you know, and I invite others, you know, to just get organized. You know, I think it helps with productivity.
I've heard that before from other people. Set yourself up on some kind of schedule, you know, so many hours of work, some, you know, take a break, have a lunch, then go back to work. I mean, a routine helps a lot with potential emotional or, you know, being bored or
Yes.
whatever other issues. I know it took me a couple of weeks to find my groove as far as scheduling my day, but especially during the week, I've got my schedule down pretty
yeah, that's great.
pretty consistent. So
makes a difference, huh?
It makes a difference.
Yeah.
As far as do you have any personal stories to share about this particular situation or any issues with
well,
you know?
Yeah. Actually, well, about 2 years ago, while living in Bali, I started a group that would meet weekly called Mentorship Mondays. And so capital MEN, so Mentorship Mondays. It was a men's group that would gather every Monday, have dinner and conversation together. And it was a free event to attend. People just show up and we'd connect. There's quite a bit of camaraderie. There's this connection, but it was also creating a space that allowed men to be vulnerable, to share what struggles they're experiencing, or also just to celebrate some wins and have that acknowledged by another man without the fear of judgment, fear that, hey, anything I share with you right now could potentially be used against me later. You know, like there's sort of these stereotypes or cliches that are attached with manhood, right? And I'm just saying that because I've grown up with a lot of these stereotypes and I know it's affected me. So I consciously wanted to make some shifts personally, especially over the last 5 years, to have some deeper relationships with other men, you know, and not feel threatened. And so we started holding these weekly sessions, and the Bali group's still running because a friend of mine joined right away. He had experience running men's groups. I didn't have a lot of experience. I was like, hey, I got this idea. Do you want to do it? And he's like, yeah, of course I'll be there. And so he's maintained the Bali group. And since I relocated back to Vancouver, we started them here. But the beautiful thing about it was always an in-person gathering.
Right.
You know, it was like these groups would meet together in person, share some food, have a great conversation, and support one another. And so when I moved back to Vancouver, we were fortunate. We had 3 in-person Mondays, and then the restrictions came out. And it was like, nope, no more groups, you know? And we're like, oh, okay, well, I guess we'll pivot. We'll go online. And so we've been running them online via Zoom every Monday. It's a different dynamic, you know, and it's, I don't want to say one's better and one's not, because we've seen guys that don't have access to live in the areas where we've been running these groups start plugging in, which has been really neat. And especially dealing with some of the challenges that we're facing today, especially, I mean, a lot of people are financially struggling and feeling that pressure because incomes have been compromised or entirely just gone. And government's doing what it can to support, but this is creating a lot of stress and internal angst for people. And so where do we have the opportunity to share that? Specifically, even as a man who's, you know, we often think of ourselves as the provider, as the hunter, the gatherer, right? Like it's our responsibility and to provide for our family, to protect them. And all of a sudden we lose our career. You know, we're fired or laid off because the company's gone out of business, you know, because there's no more customers buying their products, their services, their offerings. And so it's been really interesting to see these conversations and how this groups come together to support one another. As I always say, you know, we have some great conversations started or beginning on those, you know, 90-minute calls, but the conversations carry forward throughout the rest of the week, and we use WhatsApp groups to do that. And some of the friendships and the support, and it's just been really incredible to see. And so I invite others out there, you know, if you feel like you need a support system or a support group to connect with, there's lots of options out there. You just got to go find them, right? Or in my case, if I couldn't find them, I just make them. I just will start a group and I'll put an invite out to some close friends. We're like, this is my idea. Do you want to do this? Do you want to be a part of this? Do you see value in us supporting each other this way? And most people are very open to it, And so that's sort of a personal anecdote of just what I've experienced, and I'm very grateful to have that regular connection with this group of men, and the group's growing, and it's just been really valuable,
Yeah. I know that women always been very good at having their girls groups, right?
Yeah.
Being kind of supporting each other. So I'm glad that men are starting to come around to this idea, because we do need it. We have issues that are easier to share with another man, as long as we know we're not going to be judged. And
Correct.
I'm also part of a men's group as well here locally. And there's something liberating about being able to open your emotions, because typically men are not allowed to express your emotions, especially in front of other men. Because, like you say, the society expects us to be strong and a provider and this and that, and to be able to share your concerns and your stress, your worries, and so on with another men group. That I think that is important for mental health as well, because men in general tend to regroup or to recoil and hide their feelings, and then one day something happens and they explode, and that's when emotional abuse happen, physical abuse, which is a concern in this particular situation, because like you said, men losing their job, that puts a lot of stress financially and emotionally on them, and some could take it out on their family. And so that's definitely something to be aware of, and encourage men out there to join groups and share their challenges and frustrations, and just put it out there, air it, so it doesn't explode in your family environment. Because there's that issue that not a lot of people talk about, whether it's in press or so on, that the consequences of the shutdown, not just the financial but the emotional side of things, that a lot of people are not addressing, not enough. Anyway, good for you. And your Canadian guys are usually nice, so it's got to be a nice group. Good for you.
Well, thank you. Yeah, it's pretty cool. And we got guys from the States tuning in. And because of the Bali and the time change, it actually works really well for them to tune into the Vancouver, like the Pacific time zone, because it's like mid-morning for them the next day. So we actually have a couple of Bali guys also tuning in. Even though they go to the Monday night one in Bali, they also come to like their Tuesday morning one, because it's just a different group and another opportunity to connect with some other guys. And so it's been kind of neat. And we have a Toronto group, or an Eastern time zone one, that started about a month and a half ago. And so we got a guy in Toronto that originally came to the one in Bali, moved back to Canada, and was like, I really want to start my own Mentorship Monday here. Can we do that? And I was like, of course. Like we encourage people. Like, we just give them a template. This is how we run the meeting. Here you go. Game on. Like it's not even a nonprofit. It's just a bunch of guys coming together to support each other. It's like there's no agenda. It's just like, here it is. Like, man, it's just men meeting with each other, and we just have created a simple framework that people can plug and play. And so I always say to people, like, if you're interested, just let me know. I got a Google Doc. Here you go. Maybe need some help. Oh, I can help.
Maybe I should join. Are you accepting French people?
Absolutely. We actually have, Pierre, he started coming to the one in Bali just over a year ago, and he actually rented one of the rooms. And when he first moved to Bali, he rented a room, him and his wife, and they're from Quebec. And but he's now back in Quebec, just based on COVID before they go back to Bali. And so Pierre joins us time and time again. So we welcome French people. Open arms,
You know what they say, French lives matter.
Yeah.
So, going back to what you said earlier, I could imagine that living in a condo in an apartment building must be more restraining. I mean, I'm lucky. I live in a condo, but it's kind of side-by-side type of condos, you know, next to each other. And also what has been very helpful for me is that I have access to a swimming pool, which is part of the condo complex. So I can go out and get some sun every day, read a book, you know, be out there and get some vitamin D's from that. Yeah. How does condo life in your situation affects you? I guess it would be slightly more difficult.
Normally, it's not a problem, but our strata and most stratas actually, from what I understand with the people that I know that also live not only in our area but similar areas in Canada, a lot of them follow government guidelines and close the common areas. As an example, like our gym has been closed since the whole group restrictions rolled out. So we still don't have access to those facilities. So because now we don't have any of these common areas open, we really just have our condo, like our unit, and that's where life happens, other than walking through the main lobby past the concierge whenever we want to come and go. So we don't have those options. So, you know, that's why I do more workouts in my home. I don't even have the option to go to the gym here, and I use the stairwell. You know, I've made do. I've just figured out a way to do it. Like I tell everybody, there's always a way to adapt. You know, there's never a point where it really gets to this like, well, I have no options. I believe we always have options. It's the nice thing about once you understand how fitness works, your body is the best piece of equipment you were ever given. And you got it till the day you move on to that next journey, you know? So look after it and use it wisely while you have it. So, you know, and I don't have the luxury of having an equipment at home. I've got some very basic stuff like tubing bands, some mats, some rollers, you know, just really basic functional portable accessory type equipment. I don't have the luxury to have any extra stuff. So, you know, you make use of what you got, and that's exactly what I've done. So I've had to adapt how I train, and you know, it's always challenging because I really love my CrossFit as well. You know, I've been CrossFitting since 2007, and it's become something that I just enjoy, and I like that training modality, and especially the weight training. So not having that outlet has been challenging, you know, but I'm excited because the gym that I train at, they opened up and they're having small classes, and I've hired a coach there. I'm going to do some one-on-one sessions with him, you know, for the next few months and start getting back into that kind of routine. And so I'm really excited about that. And that's why I hope that, you know, the trend continues, that we're relaxing some of the restrictions, because I'd hate for it to come back and all of a sudden get into a routine again and be like, well, shutting those down again, you know, back home. And so I'm trying to create more of a hybrid lifestyle that allows me to do stuff at home, but also complement it with some strength training. And again, I'm just adapting as it goes, as it happens, and not giving up, you know, because I think just back to the condo conversation, it's really easy for me to use that either as an excuse not to do something, or I say, well, this is my situation right now. What do I have the opportunity to work into that or adapt to allow me to still prioritize my fitness and my well-being? And so I've had to adapt, and I figured it out. Everybody can do this. Like, it's not rocket science, you know, but just going through the process.
You're still allowed to go outside and run and go to the parks and do things like that. So it's correct. It's still okay.
I do a lot of walking. Okay. I love audiobooks, so I have a habit of, I'll try to get out for at least an hour walk every day. I have a beautiful route. We have the Vancouver seawall. We're a block away from that. So it's just a wonderful little walk, you know, and so I'll often walk for a half an hour, and then I know I got to turn around and go back. So I go as far as I can in a half an hour and then come back, and I listen to an audiobook. So I've really enjoyed that aspect, but social distancing is really respected, which is fortunate for us in the parks. And you're absolutely right. It's not like we're homebound and told we can't leave our houses. We do have the opportunity to leave, at least where I live, and obviously it sounds like where you live as well, you have that option.
Right. So no condo fever.
Yeah, no. Well, the saving grace for us, and I think we're in a bit of a different situation because we've been traveling for 5 years, and the first couple of years of our travel was North American based, and we used an SUV as our way of getting around.
Yeah.
So we spent a lot of time as a family of four in very close quarters. you know, so actually for us, the condo is actually quite a bit of space. We've got compared to being stuck in an SUV doing a road trip from point A to B to C. This is nice. We're not living out of suitcases anymore. We actually have rooms. So there's, we comparatively, we've got perspective on what it's like not to have the kind of space that we have. And so we make the best of what we got. And we've been in smaller situations, so to speak. And
so you didn't travel with an RV? You just
we had an SUV already. We didn't want to incur the cost of, because we weren't actually sure. We had no agenda when we started traveling. We didn't have any plan. We just we're slow travelers, so we just go based on what we're feeling and who we're meeting and what's going on, and so we just took our time, and so we packed up the SUV. Whatever didn't fit, we just gave away, and away we went. And but now we're back, and we're still minimalist. So our if you were to see your condo, it's rather sparse. Like everything serves a purpose, so multifunction. Especially when it comes to furniture and how we set things up. We're just minimalists, and we're going to maintain that because I like that the mental health it provides me by just limiting collection of stuff. That especially stuff that really doesn't serve us a purpose other than being stuff. It's been something that we've adapted to, and we love it. So it definitely provides us a little bit of, because I know a lot of people have been spending time on decluttering their homes during this period of time, or renovating that spare room now to make an office space or a home gym, and so it's been really neat seeing how people have adapted their dwellings to make it so they enjoy them more, right? And I think a lot of people have adapted this idea of minimalizing things and decluttering. Decluttered home, decluttered space, I find it begets a decluttered mind, and so I definitely adhere to that.
I've definitely not done much to my place as far as that's concerned, but I did clear up a space to do my yoga class once a week. Our teacher is teaching online using Facebook, and so I have created a little yoga space so I can do it without. The only thing is my cat always interested to join me, and she gets in the way. So otherwise, it'll be fine. So. Can you tell us, I understand you have some new project that you are launching. Could you explain those projects?
Oh, sure. Well, the Mentorship Mondays is a passion project. I've really enjoyed that, and that will continue and can, for as long as I don't see myself ever stopping it is where I'm going with that one. So I always welcome people that are, especially men, if they want to learn about that, reach out and we can have a conversation about you coming and hanging out with us. And, but on the business side, I specifically the business to consumer side of what I do, I still work with clients, and I recognized about a year ago, I've gained a lot of personal experience, especially when I turned 40 and I started, I'm 43 now, and it was an interesting age because I just noticed that things were shifting, to take the concept from Wayne Dyer, Dr. Wayne Dyer. He's got a book called The Shift, and it's an interesting state because that clock that's on the wall, I realized, well, it's not necessarily counting up anymore. It's starting to count down potentially, right? I like to think I'll live to be 120, but you just look at data, you look at statistics, you look at the average lifespan for a male born in the time I was born, living where I live, and it's like, whoa, I could potentially be over the halfway point, and again, knock on wood, that's not the case. And I live a certain lifestyle that allows me to live a long, healthy life. But you start to look at things a bit differently, and also my kids, there are barometers of time that I look at every day. They're 15 and 17 now. I'm like, geez, you don't slow down. So that just means I'm getting older, and so I started to realize that, there's a lot of other men out there, especially as they hit 35 to 55, there's a lot of adjustments, a lot of changes happening, a lot of shifts happening, especially fathers. And so I put together a system to support them, with fitness, nutrition, mindset. It's really life coaching at its finest. And it's called the Dad Body Project is what I called it. And it's been a lot of fun. I really like it, but it's what I've been doing for myself to maintain my own health, my well-being, my mental health, spiritual health. And so it's a one-on-one program that I work with these dads, go deep with them, help them really get clear on what they want to accomplish and the results they want to create in life, as well as profession. And we just have some fun together. It sort of starts as a 12-week journey, but then it carries on depending on where they want to go from there. And so yeah, that's got me really excited. So thanks for asking me that, by the way, because it's been going for a year. I did just sort of a year of trial and soft launches and some smaller groups working with them. But now I'm finally at the point where I'm like, okay, I got this, and so it's all been word of mouth though, it's just other guys referring other guys based on the results they're getting. And I love that kind of referral because, well,
Yes.
It's cheap marketing,
Yeah.
and it speaks for itself, when another guy gets the results, people see that and they're like, well, what'd you do? Well, here's the guy, go talk to him, and I'm like, whoa, hey, how are you doing? So that's been a lot of fun.
Good for you.
Yeah.
Mark, your turn. Mark.
It does help if I unmute myself, doesn't it? Really?
Yeah.
Makes life work better.
Sure.
Before we go any further, Dai, I mean, that's you shared a lot already. So obviously people may want to follow up on that. Where can they find out more about you and what you do?
Well, I like to think my parents were visionaries, and they could tell that there was going to be search engines one day because my name's rather SEO friendly. It's a unique name. Dai's Welsh for David, and Manuel's a Portuguese last name. It's rather common, but when you put the two together, it's pretty unique. Mm-hmm. And the saving grace is every social media platform I've ever joined, no one's ever had my name. So I'm really easy to connect with. But I'm most active on Instagram and Facebook. And I always tell people, gosh, I love these types of conversations. So simply sending me a direct message or posting on a share that I put out there and just saying, hey, Dai, I heard you on a podcast and I just want to say hello and talk, I'm game. I'm here. I'm an army of one. So I always tell people there's no bots, there's no automations, there's no, automatic reply when you send something. It's me. So just give me a little bit of grace and realize if I don't respond right away, I usually get back to people within about 2 business days is sort of my grace, my period I give myself. And, but yeah, I'm always game for the conversation. So just Dai Manuel, just search that and you will find me.
Okay, and I think you've got daimanuel.com as well, I think.
Yeah, you bet. And about 1,500 articles on there now. It's all lifestyle-based, fitness, nutrition, mindset, just content. And I always tell people, it's a great place to begin. Type in a subject in the subject search, and you'll probably find a piece of content about it. And it's always a nice place to begin their journey.
Excellent. Now, we've been sort of loosely skirting around the sort of the COVID situation. But,
yeah.
The media is promising us a second wave
Mm-hmm.
at some point in the future. And I think they're sort of going to pick, sort of the next flu season is going to be when it's going to come back.
Right.
What are you advising people to do in order to prepare for that?
Well, the social distancing, I think, is important, within reason. Obviously, like us participating in that rally, my daughter and I, we took some precautions and, we had masks on, we took sanitizer, we were very cautious, but still, if I recognized there was a risk there, there's a risk, but we felt it was a very important thing for us to participate in. It was not something that was going to be recurring. And, we wanted to show our support. So we made that decision. But I think when we start looking at life and specifically in our circumstance, and we're thinking about life, and our biggest concern is kids going back to school, because that's obviously big groups. We know that anybody that's had kids know that, especially around flu season, it's like, I just got over the flu, man, they brought me another one, and that's where I see, and especially for parents, and that's where our concerns are lying is that reintegration back into school, and how is that going to be managed by the school boards, by the healthcare systems to support it, and so that's where our biggest concerns are because of our kids and the environment they'll be in, and them bringing that home to me, them becoming the carriers or the transfer of the potential COVID virus. But again, I don't know. And I'm just being honest with you. I don't know, but we'll continue to do what we can for ourselves and continue living our lifestyle the way we do, being very focused on the kind of foods that we eat, how we move our bodies, and what we do to manage stress and to really ensure that we have a healthy mental outlook on things.
Yeah.
And knock on wood, that continues to allow us to progress the way we've been progressing, and not feeling so isolated, alone, and just unsure of the future. We are perpetually optimistic, and we have a sprinkle of realism in there, and we recognize that the news may not be 100% accurate, and so we try to do our due diligence to learn as much as we can from reputable sources and make a decision based on that. And that's all I can invite others to consider is taking a similar approach. And I'd rather play it safe than take risks that could potentially lead to further complications. And that's simply because of my compromised immune system. I'm in a bit of a, my hematologist often jokes, you could just live in a bubble. And I'm like, no, even though I kind of feel like I've been living in a bubble the last 4 months, staying in my condo, right? But it's at least condo with a few luxuries, versus living in a plastic bubble. But I feel for those that have compromised immune systems for sure, because there's a lot of uncertainty, right? And you sometimes have to go off what you've been provided and what the government's feeding us. And I do question, is that 100% true? Especially with that, like I brought up earlier, that CDC report about, man, our numbers are way off and we've been reporting the wrong numbers. I'm like, dude, you were supposed to be a reputable source that we can count on. So it makes me wonder, at these different layers or different arms of government, do they actually know what the hell's going on? And I'm like, I don't know. Who do I believe, right? So I've got to be, I often think about Socrates, right? I think it was Socrates, or was it Aristotle? Basically, he always wanted to prove that he wasn't the smartest, so he'd often ask people questions, and they would reaffirm him that, that Socratic method, that idea of always asking questions, and then questioning the sources and how did they come about that answer. Yeah. And I think not taking things for granted and for face value is a safe approach. So yeah, that's my approach as we head into the fall, especially.
Now, as you're a city dweller, and I know that you are someone who likes to eat organic where you can.
Yeah.
How are you managing to get organic foods?
The market's been pretty good. Obviously, there was a lot of issues, especially when COVID first started in Canada, because we have a lot of government arms that would often subsidize local farmers and some of the larger producers, farmers as well. And because of logistics and the way the infrastructure was affected, there was a lot of waste being created, actually. So it was like all of a sudden we had this excess demand that used to go out to all the markets and to all these different channels, specifically the service industry, the restaurant industry, because they weren't buying stuff. Because their restaurants are closed. So it was just an interesting thing to see, especially the news reports was showing all the foods being thrown away because they just, they continued producing the way they were, and they didn't have enough outlets to deliver the foods to. So we've been fairly fortunate that we've had pretty good access to foods. We're a block away from a couple of different markets, so we have options. And we also have a wonderful delivery service called Spud Delivery here in Vancouver, which delivers organic foods right to your door. They've maintained their services, and so that's been a real helpful option as well. And so we've been pretty fortunate. We haven't gone to a point where we haven't had access, and I feel for people that live in communities or in countries where that access has become heavily constricted or limited. And we knock on wood, we've been very fortunate that where we are, we haven't had to deal with that reality yet.
Well, that's good. That's good. Now, you mentioned earlier that you've managed to adapt the way you live your life, using the stairwell, for instance, and so forth.
Yeah.
Can you share sort of some of the ways that you've done that? I mean, are you hanging onto the banisters and doing pull-ups and that type of thing? Or?
No, that's the one piece I've really been missing. But the way I've sort of worked around that is, if you get exercise tubes and you get a doorway attachment, you can start to simulate some of the, because unfortunately our mantles or doorways, they don't support chin-up bars. Like it wouldn't work, especially me. I'm like 210 pounds and 6'1". It's just not really a very safe setup. And because I also have a TRX and I've got nowhere to put that, and so there's some limitations there, but I've adapted, like even my whole life fitness manifesto, I've got a program myself I put out for people. It's just body weight based movements, 15 minutes a day, and really simple plug and play. You got enough room to throw a towel on the ground, you've got enough room to work out, and I invite people to do that. Like if, Alan, you got a yoga mat, you put the yoga mat down, you can do a full yoga routine just in that one little space. So this idea that we don't have enough space to exercise or work out, I think I know people do. And I push back on that one a lot. I'm like, well, you have a kitchen table, right? You have a couch. Yeah. Can you push the couch up against the wall? Oh yeah, I guess I could. Well, you got enough room to put a towel down. You got enough room to exercise. So get over it, so I'm a little bit pushy at times like that. And again, being someone that's going to walk the talk, I adhere to the same. Yeah. And I've adapted. I do the things that I can do in the space that I have. And my goodness, there's a lot of people producing great content right now. So you just go on YouTube, you type in, 10-minute workout, body weight workout, you are going to get hundreds and hundreds of video options. So there's really no limits to the accessibility right now, unless you just don't have the internet. But most internet providers, especially here in Canada, they've been giving like no caps on internet bandwidth, and even in some cases they're providing communities with free internet because it's their way of giving back, right? Like these telecom companies. And so it's been, again, I'm speaking from Canadian perspective. I don't know enough about the rest of the world, but where I'm at, things have been okay.
Well, where Canada goes, the rest of the world follows.
Oh. I wish that was the case.
Well, if they did, all the rest of the world would be so nice.
Well, yeah, and we definitely live by our sorries, don't we? So
we do indeed. We do.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, it's not just our physical health that this whole episode has been affecting. It's been our financial health as well.
Yeah, right.
Now, that's, for many people, if they've lost their jobs, that's going to cause a huge amount of upset. Mm-hmm. And that is going to spill over into sort of their mental health, their emotional health, their physical health as well. What would you suggest people in that in sort of a jobless situation can do in order to remain positive and keep going the best they can?
Well, it's a tough one. I'll tell you, like in February, like I told you, my business saw a massive shift, and income was cut off at the knees kind of thing. And it created quite a bit of stress and some angst for me, obviously. And we were fortunate that my wife continued to work. So that gave us flexibility, but also confidence that we knew we had a certain amount of income coming in every month. Now, it wasn't what we were accustomed to, but it was enough that we could adapt. But also the government did step up, and I saw they've been trying in the States as well. Obviously, their numbers are 10 times the volume of what we have in Canada, and it's a little bit different. But the Canadian government, I got to give them mad props, and really acknowledge them. They've done a great job at supporting people, especially those that have become unemployed. And again, I don't know what the repercussions will be long term. I see what they're saying. You just can't keep giving money, even though they are. That will have a repercussion later. But for the meantime, and for those that are in it right now, there are options. And then it's also just getting really honest with your situation. What's been really cool is, like, even with ours, we have a car payment. Well, we called up the car lease company. We explained the situation. My income pretty much gone. We have only so much coming in with my wife. They've given us reprieve. They've said, okay, well, we'll just tack that on to the end of the agreement. And so for the next few months, we don't have a car payment. Same with the insurance provider. We're paying a certain amount, but they helped out. The credit card companies, they're waiving the interest rate now, and so there's options. A lot of people are stepping up. A lot of companies are recognizing this is a very unique situation. And I like to think that they're trying to do the best, or I should say the right thing. And, I can't speak for other countries, but I definitely know what I've experienced in Canada has been fairly positive. I have friends that have a different perspective, and fair enough. But from my own perspective, we've been able to navigate it, and we're doing what we can. But we've also simplified our lifestyle, right? We're not eating out anymore. We're not having a lot of these external expenses that we used to have. And so we've really just tightened up the belt, so to speak, watched how we spend our money, and are being a lot more frugal. For sure. We're trying to use only cash where we can, not rely on credit cards if we can't help it. But, they're there, and sometimes we have to. And we're grateful we have that option, but we're also grateful that the credit card company's not going to ding us a whole pile of interest over this period if we can't make a payment, So, yeah, that's sort of the thought on that. But, again, I'm not a financial planner. All I can speak to is my own personal experience. And I don't know if what I shared there makes sense or resonates, but there are options, but we have to not give in to the fear, which I did for those first couple of weeks. There was a lot of fear, a lot of concerns. My wife's a very good realist, and she brings me down off the ledge, so to speak. And, we just got really clear, created a spreadsheet, looked at our outgoing expenses, really got clear on where are we financially right now. Because you got to know where you're at. If you don't know where you're at, it's really hard to figure out where you got to go or what you need to do to right the ship, as they say. And so that was a great exercise for us, was getting really clear on that.
I was wondering, do you involve your girls in those decisions, or do you keep it?
Yep. We do after we've talked. We have to talk first, and then we bring the kids into it and explain the situation. But they're also 15 and 17, and they're of a certain maturity, and they've got a really good grasp on things. And but we're also very open with them, and we share what's going on, and we talked about that. And a lot of our outgoing expenses were for them and their extracurriculars, and they recognize, well, all those things stopped. There's not going to be any summer camp this summer. Like my one daughter actually just got a job, her first job. Service industry is starting to open up. They need to train staff for the coming season, and she got a job. So which I'm impressed by, because there's a lot of people that have lost jobs or don't have work yet, and she's been fortunate enough to pick up something. And so I know she's got a lot of gratitude for that. We have a lot of gratitude, and because we're thinking post-secondary education, and we've taken a lot of time right now to be researching grants and opportunities for her to potentially apply for subsidies or whatnot. And so we're taking a very proactive approach. We've recognized, well, our incomes have been heavily compromised. I don't know where it's going to be like a year from now. She's going to want to go to post-secondary. Well, here's the situation, Chardonnay, do you want to be involved in this? Do you want to do this? And she stepped up, So, kudos to her. She's taken a very mature approach to this, and doing her part as well. And but for younger kids, I think it's on a case-to-case situation. I don't think I can give you a blanket answer that says, oh, well, here's what you do if you have kids under the age of 5. I don't know. That's not my area to speak, and I don't know how other people raise their kids. So it's really hard to comment on that.
The one thing that a lot of people have found is they've got a lot of time, and some people have been using that time to create things. Have you been doing that? Have you got another book in the works, even if it's only in your head for the moment?
Yeah, I've been creating quite a bit of content, and just putting a lot more blog articles out. My newsletter list, I've been actively pursuing growing that, and putting out some new free content to entice people to sign up for my email list, those lead magnets as they call them. And so that's been fun. And also just being a little bit, my emails, I've been relying less on automations and campaigns and doing more in the moment type of email broadcasts. And based on some of the personal experiences I'm noticing, some things I'm finding helpful on my journey to navigate the situation we're in. And I've noticed that my readers, my subscribers, people I'm connected with online, they're resonating a lot with the messaging I'm putting out there. And again, my approach is always like, can I offer more content that inspires, motivates, educates, but also can do it in a light or a fun way. And if I can adhere to those filters, I feel like I'm doing a good job. I feel fulfilled. Like I said right at the beginning, the news own the negative. I'm going to let them own that. That's not my space to comment. I acknowledge it, and it's okay with me. I'm not a news outlet, and I'm not here to report on the global pandemic that we find ourselves in. But I will share how we're navigating it. We live a show versus tell kind of lifestyle. We'd rather use social media as a way to show what we're doing, what we're experiencing, how we're navigating things. And if people resonate with that, great. If they don't, that's okay too. No problem. It's all good. This is just what's working for us. And we also share what's not working for us.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Just out of interest, do you have your current book to hand?
Yeah. It's woohoo, right here. The Whole Life Fitness Manifesto. And it's on Amazon and most bookstores. And it's a really simple program. It's 28 days, 30 minutes a day. So 2% every 24 hours. You invest in your self-care It's 15 minutes of movement with purpose, body weight based exercises, 5 minutes of mindful meditation, 10 minutes of personal development. I give you a full 28-day routine, and it's just really a Kickstarter for people. I always tell them, I have people say, well, I only have to do 30 minutes a day. And I'm like, well, it's the least that you deserve. Like, come on, you should be able to tell me you're important enough that you're going to, commit 30 minutes a day to your health and well-being, like non-negotiable. Like, you deserve that. Because like I tell a lot of people, I'm like, I haven't found a career that people are willing to pay me to work out. Like, if I could have been a pro athlete, maybe I would have liked that. But I don't have any jobs that say, you know what, we want you to focus on your healthcare or your self-care and healthcare or preventative care so much that we were going to pay you for it. I'm like, I haven't found that situation yet. So that being said, well, who does prioritize self-care? The only person that can do it is the person themselves. And so I really want to throw the accountability and that commitment back on the individual and say, listen, you got to prioritize you because no one else is going to do it for you, and you deserve it. So I put together just a really simple system. I even give it away for free online. My publisher hates when I say that, but I've shared the link with you guys before, but join WLFM.com. It's all free. My wife and I do the workouts with you. We have YouTube videos. We guide you through 15-minute routine, and we'll do the meditation with you if you want. Like, we've tried to handle every possible objection that people will have. And it's because I've been in the health and fitness space for 25 years. I've heard it all. I've heard every excuse out there. And so I've just gone about handling every objection and breaking down those walls. And, price is always one. And I was like, well, here it is. It's free. What's next? Come on, keep bringing them, and so it's there. And thanks for giving me the opportunity to mention that.
What was that website? WL?
Yeah, join WLFM.com. And that's just, I've created a shorter URL, or you just go to DaiManuel.com and it's right there. Join the free 28-day challenge. I've got a link on the top of my, the search bar. So it doesn't matter. Either resource, people will find it, or they can type the long name, wholelifefitnessmanifesto.com, but that's a much longer URL, harder to remember typically. So I got the shorter version.
Well, you see, you're looking out for people even there, so they don't have to spend so much time.
Yeah, try to make it easy, but or at least simple. But maybe it's not always so easy. It's easy for me in my own mind, but I've realized that sometimes the way I look at things isn't necessarily how everybody else looks at things. So, trying to be more aware of that and think more like the person that's coming versus myself.
Yeah. Again, you shared a huge amount today already. Is there anything that we should have asked you and we didn't?
No, you know what? I always enjoy connecting with you guys. I love the content you're putting out. And I think this is such a timely conversation. And I haven't seen a lot of people having these types of conversations, to be perfectly honest. Really not much at all. Or it's very short. It'd be like one question addressing, the situation. So I found a lot of value in today because I haven't honestly had a lot of time to reflect on this, and so you've put me in a position where I've had to reflect and actually think about it. And because I guess, I'm just living my life. My family's living their life. We're just day to day. And I realize I may take some of that for granted, some of the choices that we've made. And so I thank you for asking the questions that you did and giving me this opportunity to reconnect. But
no, Mark,
great.
Mark can take all the credit for it. He came up with it.
Look at you guys.
I'm just following.
That's fantastic. Yeah, high five.
So, are you ready for the closing?
Sure.
Anything else to add?
None. No, that was awesome.
You just
Thank
did.
you.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. And thank you again for coming on the Low Carb Paleo Show. And as we say in Texas, à votre santé, y'all.
I like that. I love the y'all. So good. Well, to your health as well. And listen, guys, stay healthy, stay happy.